Getting crazy, is getting spooky real fast. Very, very fast. I told y'all, people have had enough. All of y'all in the Indiana Fever organization who have been lying about this girl injury, not being transparent, and all these things that the fans are feeling, the fans are speaking back. They do not appreciate it. They feel scammed. They feel lied to.
When fans start to feel played, it's almost like the Indiana Fever front office. And Stephanie White pulled off the biggest disappearing act in WNBA history. The truth about Caitlin Clark's injury wasn't just unclear. It looked like they were hiding it in plain sight, hoping no one would notice. But spoiler alert, fans absolutely noticed, and the receipts are everywhere. We're talking footage, photos, and timelines that simply don't line up. At this point, it feels less like a routine medical update and more like a full-blown cover-up. Oh, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap that notification bell so you never miss one of our deep dives. Did they really think in today's world people wouldn't fact-check every single word? The contradictions are so blatant, they don't just raise eyebrows. They raise the possibility of an actual investigation into deceptive consumer practices. Fans are now questioning whether they were misled into buying tickets, tuning into games, and spending on merchandise under false pretenses.
DOJ and FTC to investigate WNBA's misleading practices. Wow. So we are here now. And what's crazy about all of this is that, guys, this is I'm not going to come on here and say that they're going to lose, because if there was an investigation going into this team, they're not going to lose this investigation. Oh, they're going to win. Whoever is representing Caitlin is going to win.
This isn't just a small mistake. It's a full-on credibility crisis for the Fever. Head coach Stephanie White went in front of the cameras, delivered a polished version of Clark's timeline, and seemed to assume fans would buy it without question. But here's the problem. When the dates don't line up with reality, people are going to call it out. So what do you think? Do you still trust the Fever's front office and coach Stephanie White?
The Caitlin Clark injury situation is officially a mess because not only is there not more clarity, there's more confusion about what her timeline could be. And that's coming on the heels of it seeming to be pretty clear when Clark would return to the court, or about when she would return to the court. It was said on the ESPN broadcast on August 12th that Stephanie White hoped Clark would be back in practice this week. Open portion of practice, Clark is not seen. And Stephanie White afterwards said it's status quo until Clark is back at practice.
Let's rewind for a moment. Clark reportedly injured her groin, thanks in part to a knee from J.C. Sheldon, during a mid-July game. At first, the word was she might be back by the end of August. She was listed as day-to-day. Practices were supposed to ramp up, and a return seemed close. But here we are with August nearly over, and Clark still isn't practicing with the team. To make things more confusing, yet another injury suddenly gets announced. The official story? Clark supposedly hurt herself during a workout on August 7th. Sounds neat, controlled, and very PR-friendly. The problem? Footage from that exact day shows her strolling through Phoenix with a Prada bag in hand, looking more like she's on her way to a fashion show than rehabbing an injury. No limp, no wince, no discomfort, nothing. Fans noticed, and the video speaks for itself.
Right? I know there's never been a direct timeline, but all the signs seem to point in the direction of Clark returning soon. Even Natasha Howard saying, "See you soon, CC." Now it's like, wait and see. And there's further information coming out that Clark suffered a bit of an ankle injury in the midst of her recovery process. Did that hinder her return? One reporter saying yes, another reporter is saying no. Bottom line is, we need to know a little bit more. We don't need Caitlin Clark's in-depth medical report, but it's fair for fans to wonder if the Fever and the league's biggest star is going to return to the floor this season, or what the chances are. And she's been out of action for 5 weeks, so it's not as if some patience hasn't been expressed.
Instead of admitting the story didn't add up, White and her PR team decided to double down, and that's when the circus really started. Reporters like Scott Agnes, whose job is to deliver facts, went on air chuckling as he recounted this so-called unlucky injury. And let's be clear, It wasn't nervous laughter, it was genuine, like Caitlyn's pain was the punchline to a late-night comedy sketch. Are we seriously expected to believe that the face of the league, the very player driving record-breaking ratings, is out with an injury and the media thinks it's a laughing matter? That's not just unprofessional, it's an insult to fans and downright disrespectful to Clark herself.
Indiana Fever's got $1 billion entity on their team. $1 billion damn dollars. And they're a bunch of clowns, a bunch of bozos. You guys look completely incompetent and unprofessional. The way this has been handled, oh, it's a joke. It's a joke. Look, and look, they can't say anything about conspiracy theories. You're complicit in creating them because you won't be open and you won't be honest.
This is exactly why the Fever's credibility is crumbling. It's one thing to spin a story. Teams do that all the time. But to flat out lie and smile while doing it, that's basically telling the fans, we think you're gullible enough to believe this. Newsflash. Fans aren't dumb. Social media receipts don't disappear, and people are connecting the dots in real time.
You got this video right here that a lot of you have already seen. I just saw it in the last couple of days of Caitlyn getting stepped on by a coach right there on the left.
Stepped on by the coach, and I think she's going to be all right based upon the grin on her face. But
the left foot, the one that's got the issue, she got stepped on. And today, I'm not even going to say Indiana Fever fans, Caitlin Clark fans are crashing out at a different level. And I don't blame them. I don't.
They'd rather you forget that infamous moment when assistant coach Bayan January accidentally stepped on Caitlin Clark's foot during a game. But that incident didn't just vanish. It was quietly swept under the rug and replaced with this workout injury narrative. The problem? The timeline doesn't add up. The day Clark was reportedly hurt doesn't line up with what fans actually witnessed on the court. So which version is true? Was it really an unlucky training mishap? Or did a staff member, someone whose job is to protect her, cause the injury? If it's the latter, this isn't just bad luck. It's negligence. And negligence of that scale could spark a major investigation.
You guys have said Caitlin Clark was day-to-day for I don't know how long. You guys have fabricated timelines on her injury many times throughout this season. And the people have just flat out had enough. And it's gone so.
Caitlin Clark has been pulled straight into the middle of this PR spin. Instead of sounding like herself, she's stuck repeating carefully polished talking points that feel more like they were scripted by an intern than spoken from the heart. Every update on her recovery sounds identical. Working hard, feeling good, just unlucky. It's robotic. The timing feels calculated, and fans can clearly tell the difference between genuine honesty and plain damage control.
Disappointing. It's deceptive. Fans invested their hard-earned money in tickets, streaming packages, and merchandise under the belief that they were being given honest information. Instead, it appears coordinated efforts were made between the league and team communications to present a facade of hopeful updates, masking the true status of a beloved player's.
Let's get one thing straight. Clark isn't some rookie anymore. She's in her second season, the face of the league, and she's earned that status by selling out arenas and single-handedly keeping WNBA ratings alive. Yet somehow she's being treated like a disposable piece in what looks like a clumsy cover-up. Just think about it. If an NBA coach or staff member had injured LeBron James or Steph Curry and then lied about it, the story would dominate headlines nonstop, investigations would launch instantly, and jobs would be on the line. But in the WNBA, silence. No accountability, no transparency, just reporters playing the role of unpaid team interns.
Everybody's been hanging on. And even worse, everybody's been spending money on this team, which looks like a damn scheme at this point. The Indiana Fever know people have been spending money on tickets and travel and blah, 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 thinking that Caitlin Clark was her anticipated comeback. People tuning in and showing up at games, they need to understand that was because The idea, the aura that Caitlin Clark was coming back to lead this team into the playoffs.
The Fever's reputation is hanging by a thread, and Stephanie White is right at the heart of the chaos. Her attempt to distract fans with a misleading timeline isn't just reckless. It could cross into fraud. When you're selling tickets, promoting games, and pushing merchandise around a superstar, deliberately deceiving fans about her health is a serious line to cross. That kind of behavior invites scrutiny from watchdogs, raises red flags for sponsors, and might even trigger legal consequences.
I want to say fans felt excited when they purchased tickets, believing they'll watch Caitlin Clark shine on the court. However, that excitement turned to disappointment as misleading injuries kept fueling false hopes that she had played the WNBA. And hold up, damn, is they finna get her for line? Is they finna get her for line to the fans? Oh my God. Hold up, the WNBA and Indiana Fever Indiana Fever have repeatedly engaged in what seems to be a strategic ploy to drive ticket sales and merchandise sales by suggesting that Caitlin Clark's return was on the horizon. Holy-ish right now, bro. Oh my God, it's about to get red.
Nat here's the boldest theory making the rounds right now. Maybe this isn't just incompetence. It could be intentional. Clark entered the league like a tidal wave, smashing ratings and rewriting the story of women's basketball. But almost right away, the whispers began. She needs to bulk up. She needs more strength. She's not ready. The response? She's pushed into rapid muscle gain. Her body breaks down, and suddenly her second season is overshadowed by injury chatter. That's not bad luck. That's bad planning. And bad planning always has someone to answer for. In this case, the spotlight falls squarely on Stephanie White and her staff.
I feel like they were lying about her injury as far as like the severity of it. I think it's a really bad injury. I think when they rushed her back that one time, I think she hurt it even more and it pushed the timeline back.
Trying to come back and come back quickly. She needs to make sure that she's 100%. Her competitor wants to play. We're prioritizing her long-term health and wellness is the most important thing.
As bad as it might sound, I think it might be like a season-ending level type of injury, and they're hoping to get in the playoffs and they can somehow get her during the playoffs.
Fans are openly saying Caitlin Clark should forget the Fever's medical staff and return to the Iowa doctors she actually trusts. And honestly, who can blame them? If the front office can't even be transparent about when her injury happened, what else are they hiding? Are they downplaying how serious it is? Rushing her back just to sell more tickets? These aren't wild conspiracy theories. They're real concerns fueled by the fact that the Fever haven't given fans a single clear answer from day one. Their silence is louder than the scripted statements, and to many it screams cover-up.
The craziest thing about this last groin injury with Caitlin Clark is how it's been covered. The day after she had the groin injury, she was listed as day-to-day. And then a couple weeks after that, then she was listed to being out indefinitely. Now, ESPN had August 12th as the circled return date for Caitlin Clark to get back onto the court. And just yesterday, she was listed as a game time decision for today's game against the Dallas Wings. And then after practice yesterday, Coach Stephanie White basically came out and said, like, no, Caitlin Clark hasn't even been practicing, so they changed it from a game time decision to her being out.
Stephanie White must have thought she could walk up to the podium, flash a smile, and sell us this workout injury story like we wouldn't notice the holes. But the more she repeats it, the shakier it sounds. And here's the problem. Every time she doubles down, she doesn't just damage her own credibility, she drags the entire franchise down with her. Instead of protecting Caitlin, White is setting fire to her reputation and pulling the Fever into scandal territory. And fans aren't fooled. They're tired. They've seen Caitlin Clark get beaten up by defenders, ignored by refs, targeted by jealous players, and now mishandled by her own team. Imagine being the most hyped women's basketball star in decades, breaking attendance records, shattering viewership highs, and then being lied about when you're injured. That's not just poor management, it's malpractice. That's how you ruin a superstar before she even reaches her prime.
This has been all over the place, and I get it to a certain extent. The fans, the media does not need to know every little thing that's going on with Caitlin Clark's injuries, especially a star player like that. We will never know all the information, nor should we know all the information, and that's actually good for Caitlin. It protects her for when she does come back on the court. She can't be targeted. Teams can't use a certain injury or ailment against her if people don't really know what is going on. But the reporting of her timeline in general, there has been no rhyme or reason to what has been shared.
This story goes far beyond Indiana. It's about the entire WNBA. Right now, Caitlin Clark is the league. She's the driving force, the reason casual fans tune in, the spark that fills arenas, secures TV deals, and keeps sponsors invested. Remove her from the equation and the impact is instant. Attendance drops, ratings tank, and corporate partners start backing away. That's why Stephanie White's cover-up isn't just a PR nightmare. It edges into potential consumer fraud. If fans are buying tickets believing Clark might play when the organization already knows she won't, that's not just bad optics, it's false advertising. And that's exactly the kind of deceptive practice that invites investigation.
Does this happen in sports where someone this valuable suffers an injury and you don't tell people about it until 2 weeks later, once speculation about Caitlin Clark starts running rampant? Once people start finally muster up the courage to say, hey, this is weird. Caitlin Clark has disappeared and vanished. She doesn't talk to reporters. We're getting no legitimate information from anybody in the Indiana Fever organization. This is the biggest star in sports.
Let's talk about the timing here, because it couldn't look more suspicious. Just as Caitlin was catching fire and the Fever finally showed some spark, she's suddenly sidelined with this vague, questionable timeline. The team stumbles. The momentum evaporates, and, intentional or not, it feels like sabotage. To make matters worse, White didn't just stay silent. She went on camera and pushed a false narrative, which only made the fallout explode even further.